All right, so we talked about sending the letters, and after you get good at sending letters, the third way of marketing is to visit people. And this is something that a lot of agents, they try to hide away. They hide from this, just like they hide from calls because, well, they don't want to feel rejection. And if you remember, I said to you the best way to not feel rejection is, well, don't insult them, don't lie to them, don't sound desperate, and try to learn from them, but don't try to get hired. You won't feel rejection. If I went to someone's house, I would recommend that you spend 2 hours each week, and you say, well, but Scott, that really can't get me anywhere. Listen, please. Put down that pen. All right, you ready? The people you call, you will reach a certain number of them. And the people you write letters to, you will get those to go to them. But the people that you don't reach by phone and they don't open their mail, there's nobody else going to their door. And here's the beauty of going to their door. You go to their door, if you spend 2 hours every week, just take the list of addresses, 2 hours every week, and head to their house. You'll probably get to between 8 and 10 houses. I know you're thinking, well, that isn't very many. Well, in an hour, you only talk to 4 people. But in 2 hours, you might talk to 2. But if you're there in person, there's no one else doing it, and it gets better. Because you're there in person, the ability to build a rapport and connect with them is just magnified. And if you get there and the house is empty, now you know it's empty. Go to the neighbor. Because if you go to the neighbor, they could probably tell you where to find them. But you're never going to get to the neighbor if all you do is call or send letters. So the reason why you want to call, send letters, and go to the door is because it gives you a chance to make sure you have uncovered every possibility of finding someone and getting to them. So my recommendation is that you make a habit every week of going out there for 2 hours and go to their house. And if you aren't allowed in that neighborhood, don't go there. If it's a non-solicitation neighborhood, don't go there. I don't have to tell you how to do that stuff, but I will tell you this, and this is probably the coolest thing I've ever seen. What if they're not home? What do you do if they're not home? Well, I stumbled upon this. I actually didn't come up with it myself. I had one of my students give it to me, and he had been using this, and we call it the yellow drop-off. And the yellow drop-off, which is also in the expired listing toolkit, it's amazing because it's so simple, and it really, really works. If you don't modify it, if you don't try to fix it, if you don't try to make it too sanitized, if you don't try to mess it up, you'll be amazed at the response rate because the yellow drop-off looks like a handwritten pad of paper that you took and you tore the sheet off and you just left it at their door. And what my students tell me is that on average they get about a 20% callback. Now add that 20% callback to the fact that a couple of the people answer the door, to the fact that you spend an hour making the phone calls and you're spending the time sending out the letters. It would be almost impossible if you did these things to not have at least, at the very, very least, if you did the calls and you did the letters and you did the visits, to have at least 2, if not 3 or 4 appointments. Now, I want to go back to this yellow drop-off. I'm going to tell you something really quick. How do you do the yellow drop-off? It's so easy. You take a pad of paper and you tear the sheets off of it, and you take the note that I tell you to write, and you just hand write it on a plain piece of white paper, and then you put the white paper on your copy machine and you copy it onto the yellow paper. That's kind of neat, isn't it? It's cheap, it's effective. Now, some of my students had really good luck just taking that thing and just crumpling it and sticking it in the door jamb. And you could use this for sale by owners, pre-foreclosures, those people that are unable to be reached any other way. You could leave it in their door. I had one of my students that he would punch a hole in it, fold it in 3, he'd fold it like a third, and then he'd put a rubber band on it and put it on their doorknob. Another one of my students used it and put it on the garage door. So when they open it up, it would fall onto their car or something. There's a million ways of doing it. But by far, one of the most inventive ways of using it is this. You take that single sheet of paper and you shove it into a FedEx envelope. Now, I know that you're probably saying, well, you can't do that. Who can afford to send FedEx? Well, they're free. And I'm not telling you to steal from them. I'm not telling you to steal anything from anybody, because I once had a student accuse me of telling everyone to steal. No. If you go down to the FedEx office and tell them what you're doing, they'll give you a box of FedEx envelopes because they consider it to be advertising. What's really, really neat about it is this. You stick the letter in the FedEx envelope, just the letter, just a piece of paper, and drop it off. And more than likely, they're going to see it because they're going to open it. And it does work. So that's a give me. That's something you can do. You don't need me to tell you how to do it. So we can call people. We can do the mailings, the drop-offs, the visits. And if we spend 4 hours each and every week doing that, lo and behold, what's going to happen is you're going to have people that want to meet with you, and that's what you want. Now, you're not going to get people to want to meet with you if you're just sitting there on your hands saying, I wonder why I have no business. You have to go out there and do some stuff. That's what you have to do. How do you get their undivided attention? How do you get them to want to meet with you? You're going to love this, so don't miss it. All right, so you've done the marketing, and now you have someone you're talking to. You're sitting there either face-to-face on their doorstep, or maybe you're on the phone with them. Maybe they called you, maybe you called them. But how do you get them to want to meet with you? And this is one that I know that sometimes we don't even have to have a technique, and sometimes we have technique and we don't even know about it. But I remember one of the stars of a show from a long time ago. It was called Columbo, and it was played by a guy named Peter Falk. And I used a strategy, and I kind of learned it from him, but it was sort of a very non-threatening approach to getting an appointment, because what Peter Falk did as Columbo is he always asked the question, a leading question at the end of his investigation as he walked away. He kind of acted like he was walking away, so like he was done. And then he turned and he'd sort of say one more question. And the nice thing about that piece right there, I mean, if you did that, what happens is it disarms people. It disarms your prospect because they think you're leaving. You know, when they think you're done and you start to leave, they do a little bit of a drop in their defenses. And when that happens, you have an ability to kind of come back and you have, if you have the ability, if you know how to do this. I call it the Columbo strategy because you have to know the answer to the question. I mean, you don't ask the question if you don't know the answer, but I'm going to give you the answer because the question that you want to ask is a question that they can't possibly know the answer to. And this has worked for so many of my students, and that is this. Before I go, let me just ask you something. How did you guys score on the marketability scorecard? Now you say, but what's a marketability scorecard? Well, if I'm asking a homeowner that, they're probably going to think they heard me say something different, or they're going to answer the question with, what is that? See, I know that answer. I mean, the answer is they don't know what it is. And how do I know they don't know what it is? Because I know that they don't know what it is. And if I thought they knew what it was, I'd call it something different. And the whole point to it is to ask a question while you disarm them, and ask that question so that you know the answer. And the answer is they don't know what it is and they didn't have one. Now remember, I was talking to them on the phone in person, and I had asked some questions to get some information about what their agent did and what they wished they had done. And because I'd already asked that, I already know what their agent did, and I know that their agent didn't do a marketability scorecard. So when I asked the question to them, and I said, so just curious, how did you guys score on the marketability scorecard? And they said, what's that? Oh, you didn't have one? Well, I don't think we had one. Really? You didn't have, oh my God, that could be the problem. See, all I'm doing is I'm getting them to wonder if maybe the reason their house didn't sell was because they didn't have one of these. I know it sounds stupid, but let's look at the alternative. Some of you have tried this and it didn't work. You called up the expired listing prospect and you said, hey, I know why your house didn't sell. You priced it wrong. And you immediately make them mad. You antagonize them by doing that. Well, why would you do that? I mean, we all know that that's why it didn't sell, but why would you tell them or make them admit it? It's like having someone who has a child who has a learning disability, and you say, well, I know your child has a learning disability. You don't do that. Why do you want to make someone feel bad? I know why your house didn't sell. No, better to do this. How'd you guys score on your marketability scorecard? Assuming as if, say it as if you assume everybody does it, because that just makes it more fun. And when they answer the question, it's going to sound something like this. Well, we didn't have one. Now, your reaction to that, Robert, should be, really? Huh, wow. Really? You didn't have one? I mean, like you're surprised. Like, what do you mean you didn't have one? I don't understand. I mean, I thought everyone did them. And they're going to ask at some point, probably if you do it right, well, what is it? And now you have a chance to answer a question without sounding like you're bragging. Because it sucks when someone comes in and says, I'm really good at selling houses. I sold 8 million of them. Because I really don't care. As a homeowner, I don't care. And most homeowners, they don't care either. Why you go in saying it that way doesn't make any sense. Instead, going in there to connect with them, to get them talking, to get to the point where I can ask them a question, and now they say, well, what's the marketability scorecard? I get to give them the description. It goes something like this. Well, it's real simple. It's what we use here at our company to make sure that our listings actually sell. So you didn't have one, did you? Now, I didn't tell them anything, did I? Although I did hit them with a couple of things. It's what we use to get our listings to sell. I'm kind of implying something here, aren't I? And he said, but I can't do that. Okay, then don't do it. Whatever you've been doing that doesn't work, keep doing that. Here, let me tell you why I like this. Because asking them how they score on the marketability scorecard, I win because they didn't have one done. When they ask what is it, I get to tell them what it is. And you really are going to find that not only is it effective, but it doesn't take much effort to do. It's just a matter of knowing this about people, that that you know what the answer is going to be. And when you get good at this, what's going to happen is you're going to get them to want to meet with you, not to just show them your marketing plan, but more to go do one of those marketability scorecards. It's kind of a nice little thing because now it isn't about trying to talk them down off their price ledge. That part really gets old quick. So the process starts with, getting to them, whether they call you, you call them, meeting with them. You have to get them to want to meet with you. Then we get to the third part of it, and that's how do you get them to hire you? I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, you got to get them to hire you. How do you get them to hire you? Well, I think a lot of agents really, really overthink this because what they do is they listen to what the sellers say, and they listen to what the sellers tell them, and they forget who has the license. Think about this. How many times has a seller told you how to sell a house? Most of the time. Well, probably not most of the time. I find this to be funny. I observe agents all the time, and I watch these agents be told what to do, kind of like they're led around on a dog leash. And the sellers and the buyers dictate to them what to do. They don't only dictate what to do, but they dictate how to do it and when to do it. The good example of that is this. If you've ever had a listing with someone who wouldn't do it your way, you ended up doing it their way because you're either doing it their way or they're doing it your way. Well, you're the trained pro, and so why would you do it their way? I mean, they're telling you, well, the way we're going to sell our house is you're going to advertise it every week. And some agents go, okay. Some sellers will say, well, I'm only going to list with you if you're willing to list it at a price that nobody's ever going to buy it. And the agent says, okay. And that's fine. I mean, it's okay if that's your strategy. But at some point, you've got to be able to get them to do what you tell them to do. So how do you get them to hire you? Well, this is so easy because it's like everything else. How do you get them to do what you tell them to do? Because when the options are more in their favor, they're going to do what you tell them to do. The only reason they do what they would think to do is because everybody wants pretty much the same thing. If you focus on what they care about, which I never said you did, but you have to know what they care about. And what they care about is just not that complicated. What they care about is ending up with the most money. That's all they care about. They really do. Now, I know you're thinking, no, they care about how much commission you charge. No, they don't. Nope. They want us to sell it for more money. Nope, they just want to end up with the most money. What they end up with is what matters most to them. Let me say that again. What they end up with is important. It's the most important thing. They don't really care about your marketing plan. They care about their end result. They don't care about how big your company is or how small your company is or how many homes you've sold or how many homes you haven't sold or how long you've been in the business. They care about how much they end up with. They really do. I'm telling you the truth. They do. If you don't believe me, ask them. They care more about how much they end up with than how much you end up with. This is kind of silly, isn't it? I mean, do they care about how much you end up with? Or do they care about how much they end up with? Ding, 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 ding. Yes, they care about how much they end up with. And yet, what is the thing most agents get stuck on? They get stuck on commission. They get stuck on how much commission. And see, when it comes to working with sellers, it's so easy. It's like this is not rocket science. All you have to do is prove to them that they'll end up with more in the end if they hire you. That's how you get hired. Let me say it again. If you want to get hired, prove that hiring you, they'll end up with more. I didn't say hiring you have the best marketing plan, or hiring you have the best car, the biggest car, the fastest car, or you with the biggest company and the smallest company, you've been in it the longest, the shortest, you've sold the most homes, the least number of homes. None of those things really matter. What really matters is that they'll end up with more money by hiring you. If they knew they'd end up with less money hiring you, they would never hire you. If they knew they'd end up with less money hiring someone else, they would never hire anybody else. That's why it's important to understand this, that if you can prove to them that they'll end up with the most money by hiring you, then why would they not hire you? Simple argument, just logical. But how do you do that, you're wondering? Well, it's a tool, and I call this tool the broker cost comparison. Now, the broker cost comparison is one of those tools that I think are fascinating because it helps you help people make the right decision. And by helping them make the right decision, they're going to hire you, which is a dandy decision, and they're going to pay you your commission, if not more. So let me have someone else explain this to you, because sometimes I explain it and you think, yeah, but he makes it sound so easy. It's Scott. He always makes it sound easy. I'm going to let Sue explain it to you.
Hi, Scott. This is Sue Nelson. Scott, this is Sue Nelson with ERA Sunbelt Realty in Las Vegas. That I have been using the broker cost comparison worksheet. I started tracking my numbers just to really see how effective this tool was for me. And I have calculated 19 listings that I sold at an additional 1%, which brought me an additional $62,700 in income from this item that I believe I paid a few $100s for. I just wanted to call and say thank you. You're awesome.
Now, you might say to yourself, well, yeah, but I can't charge a higher commission. Well, let me share with you something.